The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com, that's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock. And when we talk about our code, we talk about choice, organization, direction, and education. And we help hundreds of advisors across the United States, whether they're insurance advisors, attorneys, CPAs. They rely on us for advice on life insurance, disability, long-term care, and annuities. And one of the key elements of what we do that differentiates us from everybody else to help you, the client, and whether you're a business or a person or you're another insurance agent, one of the key elements is underwriting, life insurance underwriting. And today we're very fortunate to have with us a life insurance underwriting expert, Heather Sprague. Heather, say hello.
Hello. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming here. Heather is... she's an underwriting consultant with over 25 years of experience in home office and brokerage underwriting. And for people that don't know what a brokerage is, and I run an insurance brokerage, I actually have other agents come to me with life insurance cases that may have difficulty in that maybe their company doesn't have the product, but mainly it's for giving advice as to maybe it's an underwriting situation where somebody's not healthy or they are healthy or they have particular difficulties. And also, because we have a vast array of companies, that's why they come to us. Heather provides multi-level consulting service with primary focus on special risk underwriting. When people have multiple impairments, maybe you have a heart issue and you have diabetes and those type of things. And she gives my agency support that helps me place people in cases. So she's a powerful resource to us. And Heather, I so appreciate you coming in here. And I'd love you to kind of go into what underwriting's all about and the importance. Can you explain the role of an underwriter in the life insurance process?
Sure. So from a brokerage standpoint, I act as a liaison between Neil, the general agent, and the home office. And so I speak the language of the home office underwriter without the volume of cases that they have or the widgets that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And so let's say, for example, you have a case that is approved other than is applied for. I'll give an example of a 78-year-old that was recently declined by a large carrier that everybody would know of. And the agency brought that case to me and said, Heather, do you think that we have any alternatives or options for this client? So I'm reading through the medical records. He had a pretty significant jump in his PSA from April 2024 to current based on his insurance lab. I think it had maybe increased by 3. And he had had a normal prostate MRI 2 years ago. As part of his colonoscopy recently, he had a normal prostate exam. Excellent cardiac risk factors, recently had a favorable cardiac workup, and he's on finasteride, which is a medication that can falsely lower PSA readings. So when we see that, we actually double the PSAs in the past have been as high as 7. And Lincoln declined him because his PSA, I shouldn't mention the carrier. They declined him because his PSA had jumped to 9. And on a 78-year-old, and they also wanted follow-up. And I'm thinking, from a 78-year-old with a normal MRI of the prostate 2 years ago, with previous PSAs prior to finasteride in the 7 range, but more recent PSAs actually were lower than that. I misspoke. His PSA had actually recently jumped to 5. And so I entered into negotiations with the Lincoln underwriter and just pointed out the favorables here. We've got this MRI from 2 years ago that was completely benign. Previous finasteride use or current finasteride use with previous PSA readings in the 7 range jumped to 5 recently. So PSAs had stabilized in the 3 range, but a recent jump to 5. In a 78-year-old, are we really concerned about a slow-growing prostate cancer being a mortality concern? And I offered up all these suggestions and asked the underwriter to go back to their medical director for reconsideration. And the medical director came back standard. So that was a case, a $25,000 premium case that went from decline to standard. Right. Because I was able to pull out this favorable data and present it in a way that made sense. And so from a brokerage standpoint, it's really important to have somebody in your court that speaks that language, that knows how to read medical records, that knows how to interpret them, so that you have an advocate to negotiate on your behalf.
You see that, and that's huge. And so what does that mean to the everyday person? That means is, we go the extra mile to make sure that you can get approved to what you're looking to purchase. And that's why I have so many agents coming to me and my agency, because of our area of expertise in underwriting. And Heather is our big support system behind the scenes, helping us accomplish these goals. So it's a vital factor in what we do. And I want to say this because there's so much emphasis, especially since COVID, where people think they're going to call 1-800 and buy life insurance. And it just, there's so much more that goes into it than just getting a policy. Because
that's right. And that's right. And Neil, to your point, you can't just dial in a phone number and get one action that's going to go across the board. Every carrier uses different lead underwriting manuals. Some carriers have proprietary underwriting guidelines, and there's so many plates up in the air that you're juggling that you need to be aware of, which carrier's using which manual, which carrier's aggressive on which impairment, because it can run the gamut, right? You can get one carrier that might consider a risk a table 4 and another carrier that sees no mortality concern and could be as good as preferred. And you really need an expert in your court to know not only the underwriting aspect of it, but also the product aspect of it, so that you're navigating a client to the correct carrier, not only from a pricing standpoint, but from an underwriting standpoint as well.
Right. Absolutely. Heather, I just wanted to ask you, how has the life insurance underwriting process evolved over the years?
I would say that the folks in the field have had to become experts. And, field underwriting and relationships, I always say that, in this day of, how we've evolved into sort of this automated underwriting way of doing things, that expertise and relationships are more important now than they've ever been. And I've seen an evolution go from relationships and field underwriting to not back to that, and how important that role is in having the relationship and the expertise on that side to be able to navigate and to negotiate with your carrier partners.
And that brings me to a point. I was in St. Louis and I got to spend some time with Heather. And we had all these head underwriters from different insurance companies. And I was watching Heather from the corner of the room. Sorry, Heather. but I saw how she navigated not just cases that I brought to me, I don't want to say cases, but clients that were having troubles getting coverage. But I saw her sit with head underwriters from around the room, working, with these relationships. So it wasn't just her expertise. The relationships with the underwriters themselves helps you achieve your goals in getting the kind of coverage you want. And
absolutely,
that's extremely valuable. Well, you're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. If you want to get a hold of me, 631-647-4694 for all your questions, especially about underwriting. Happy to answer. And Heather, how can they reach you or find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Heather Sprague.
Excellent. Heather Sprague, spelled S-P-R-A-G-U-E. Look her up on LinkedIn. If she is an underwriting expert. What a unique thing, and what a great support she is. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein, and I'm here today with Heather Sprague. She's an underwriting consultant with over 25 years of home office experience and brokerage underwriting experience. She has been extremely helpful to me behind the scenes, helping me with folks that have come to me with major health problems, or maybe they've had been declined in the past, and they come to us, and we make them all better and make them work. So, Heather, I just can't get over how great you are at what you do. And before the break, I was talking about the relationships you have with so many different companies, with the head underwriters. And what's been lost in this profession, I believe, is two things. And Heather, you mentioned it before the break, because what has been lost in this profession, as I find, is something called field underwriting. And Heather, you want to go over what field underwriting is one more time? Because I think that people don't get it, and I would say most of my agents are not as good as they once were. They don't understand field underwriting.
Yeah, so field underwriting is really the most critical part of the sale, in my opinion, because let's face it, you want to avoid surprises. You don't want to tee up a client and tell them that they're preferred when they've had a history of diabetes or coronary artery disease or cancer, and just to have them go through the underwriting process and be surprised by a premium that they weren't quoted. And so it's really important to take on that role, to have a candid and transparent, strong relationship with your client pool, so that you're avoiding surprises and setting appropriate expectations. It can be difficult. I understand, but you need to have that, that person in your court who can have those candid and transparent conversations, either with the broker behind the scenes, so that everybody's expectations are set appropriately. You really want to avoid surprises. Right. And the best way to do that is to develop a relationship with your client, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right. I think it's so important. I can't tell you how many people we talk to, and, I'm in great health, this and that. We find out they're in great health, what they may think they're in great health, but, to an underwriter who assesses risk, maybe not so good. So that would drive up your price if you're not written, or you may get a decline in a situation. Some of the risk factors we want to talk about, but isn't there something called credits and positive factors when you're dealing with people and you're presenting a case to a carrier about activities and everything? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, Neil, when we participated in that meeting recently together, we had a lot of chief underwriters that gathered together and presented to us. And I think there was a real common theme here that carriers are looking to underwrite holistically. So they're not just looking at a manual and saying, we're going to put one table on for this and one table on for that, and kind of stacking things together. Well, they're looking at the whole picture. So they'll want to see things, for example, routine preventative health care maintenance, regular exercise, compliance with medication. In older folks, they want to see that they're actively participating in or participating in their activities of daily living and engaging with friends and family and the community. All of those things are favorable aspects to mortality and can be considered in an overall rating. So if you've got somebody that, say, has coronary artery disease and is tracking table 2 to 3, but they're going to the cardiologist regularly and their cardiac risk factors are under excellent control, they're compliant with their medication, they're exercising regularly, a carrier could very easily see an opportunity there to offer credits and potentially get the case reduced to a lower table rating or as good as standard.
Right. And so basically, if you're looking to buy insurance, because, it's just not life insurance agents that listen to the show, it's everyday people, and you're looking to buy insurance, I think the main thing that you want from somebody you're purchasing insurance from is to be your advocate.
Yes.
In presenting you in a good fashion to the insurance company, as much as someone who can present you different ideas and concepts. But to get it to the finish line, you need that advocate to take you to that next level and get you the coverage you want. And advocacy is key today for anything, navigating a life insurance company. And I'm going to say one other thing about that. You need an advocate when you apply, and you need an advocate when you need to make a claim. You want to talk about that a little bit, Heather? I certainly can.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead. You go ahead and speak to that.
Well, I've recently been hired by a number of people who have bought insurance. Actually, attorneys have reached out to me. I have one situation where the gentleman's father had bought a policy from somebody online, simple underwriting. He died of a brain aneurysm 6 months later, not knowing. That was in 2020. They still haven't paid out the claim because the insurance company, I would think, did not do medical underwriting up front, and now they're trying to do medical underwriting on the back end, trying not to pay and looking for doctor's reports and doing everything. It's a major problem. But where's the agent that sold this policy? They have no idea. So now I've stepped in as an advocate to try and help these people get this death claim, because there's no way they could have told that but I mean, this is an example, a live example that's occurring right now with me, and trying with this company that's no longer operating new business, and they would just do simple, okay, we'll just issue it, and great, he needed it, the coverage at the time, but hey, they didn't pay the claim, and that's a problem.
I mean, that speaks also, that there could be two different aspects to that, right? You could have one where a client wasn't upfront with their medical history, and so the insurance company is having to investigate on the backside to make sure that there was full disclosure and that there wasn't anti-selection happening, as opposed to the alternative, which would be the client simply did not know they had this condition.
Right.
Ordering medical records to make sure that there was full disclosure.
Right.
So it's important, I guess, for you to be advocating and pushing for that process to continue.
Right. But when you buy from 1-800-BUY-INSURANCE, where's that person that's there that's going to help you with this insurance company?
Right.
They're just not there. And people, listen, companies, especially during COVID, everybody wants quicker, easier. Let me go online. Let me Google this. Let me write my own will. Let me buy my own life insurance. Let me do my this and that. You need professionals, and you want professionals to be there for you to help put things together. So
sure, there's absolutely a place for that automated underwriting process, but you need a professional to understand and to know when it's appropriate, when it's not.
Okay, and we're running out of time, but I did want to ask you one other question, which has come up quite a bit lately. How's the growing availability of genetic testing influencing underwriting decisions?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of companies in the market. For example, I'll use the company. They're actually local here, and I had an opportunity to tour their facility, Grail, which is connecting with several large insurance companies to offer genetic testing issue, or it's actually not genetic testing. In this case, it's cancer screening post issue. So not only is it a benefit to the client, right, to be able to have this tool, this screening tool to manage their health, but it's a tool for the carrier as well to improve their mortality costs,
right,
to keep people healthy. So it's playing a large role.
All right. Well, that's interesting because I could play both sides of that one, but we're running out of time. We could talk about this one for hours, believe it or not. Heather, thank you so much. You've been terrific. What a great asset you are to me and my company, and what a great asset you are to so many other people. And I really thank you for what you do, and thank you for doing the show. You've been listening.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And you've been listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. My phone number, if you want to reach me, 631-647-4